solar flare, and supernova. Gonna explain about that right now. Here goes.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're looking up, way up, because space doesn't just hold stars and planets.
No, it holds messages.
Exactly. It sends us these incredibly powerful messages written in light, time, and power.
And that's what we're digging into.
We are doing a deep dive into a reflection by Mario Marrero Jr., and it's called Solar Fire and the Dying Star.
It's a piece that really elevates astrophysics into, well, philosophy. We're taking two of the most, violently powerful phenomena in the cosmos.
The solar flare?
Right, the solar flare and the supernova. And we're asking what they can tell us about creation and destruction.
Not just out there in space, but, within us.
Exactly. The mission today is to understand the mechanics, sure, but then to connect it all back to your own life, your own moments of transformation.
All centered on this one profound idea.
That the universe does not waste energy.
Okay, let's start unpacking this cosmic language. And let's start right here in our own backyard with the sun.
Our star.
It seems so steady, so reliable. But the author reminds us that even our sun has these massive, untamed forces building up just under the surface.
That's the perfect way to frame it. The sun is, 4.6 billion years old? It operates in this state of balance, but it's a dynamic balance. It's always shifting.
And solar flares are part of that shift.
They're a key mechanism. And the driver behind it all is magnetism. Deep inside the sun's atmosphere, you have plasma, this superheated charged gas, and it's constantly moving, constantly churning.
I always picture it like twisting a bunch of elastic bands together.
That's a great analogy.
Oh.
But on a stellar scale, these magnetic field lines twist and tighten, and the author describes them as cords pulled too far.
So they're storing energy.
A tremendous amount of energy. You get this intense, localized tension, especially around sunspots. The pressure just builds and builds and builds, creating a sort of magnetic knot that, it simply can't hold anymore.
And when that tension breaks, that's the flare?
That's the flare. It's not a slow leak. It's an instantaneous snap. A process called magnetic reconnection happens, and it unleashes this colossal burst of energy. X-rays, radiation, all of it traveling outward at the speed of light.
The speed of light part is so important. That's why we feel the impact so fast.
In minutes. The radiation hits our planet in about 8 minutes. And you can't see it with your eyes, not from Earth, but our instruments. They scream with data.
Our whole technological world is the first to know.
Absolutely. The effects are very real. On the ground, you might see radio signals tremble, or even full shortwave radio blackouts.
And our satellites up there are really exposed to it.
They are. That surge of particles can cause all sorts of problems. Ground control might even have to adjust their orbits just to prevent damage.
But the most beautiful effect, the one we can actually see, is the aurora.
That's the real spectacle. Those charged particles get funneled by Earth's magnetic field toward the poles, and they light up the gases in our atmosphere.
Creating those curtains of living color the author talks about.
It's the visual proof that something powerful just hit our planet's shield.
So the philosophical point here, which Marrero makes so well, is that the flare isn't anger. It's not chaos.
It's release.
Exactly. The sun has to release this tension to stay stable. It's this reminder that our life source, as steady as it seems, is also fundamentally untamed.
It has the power to disrupt, to humble us. It's never truly silent.
It burns faithfully, but it's still wild.
And what's fascinating is the sun renews itself through that disruption. It keeps on going, even as it releases this energy.
Which sets up this amazing contrast with the next thing we need to talk about.
A star that doesn't just release a little energy, a star that ends its entire journey.
Right, so if the flare is like a reset, now we're dreaming out. Far beyond our solar system, to a star that was many times larger than our sun.
And it has reached its end.
For millions of years, that star existed in this fragile balance.
It's a constant tug of war. On one side, you have the incredible crushing force of the star's own gravity, always trying to pull everything inward.
And what's pushing out against it?
Fire, or more technically, the immense pressure from nuclear fusion in its core. For most of its life, it's fusing hydrogen into helium.
And that releases a ton of energy.
A massive amount.
Yeah.
Enough to generate the outward pressure that perfectly counteracts gravity. It's this beautiful, constant battle.
But for the really big stars, the ones maybe 10 or 20 times bigger than our sun, They just burn through their fuel so much faster.
So much faster. When they run out of hydrogen, they start fusing heavier elements. Helium into carbon, carbon into neon. It creates these layers like a giant cosmic onion.
But that can't go on forever.
It can't. It's a temporary fix. The real end comes when the core starts trying to fuse iron.
Okay, stop there. Why is iron the end of the line?
It all comes down to physics.
Yeah.
Fusing anything lighter than iron releases energy. It powers the star. But when you try to fuse iron atoms together, it actually costs energy.
So the furnace just goes out?
It hits an energetic wall, the fuel runs out, the outward push stops.
And gravity wins. Instantly.
Instantly. The core collapses in a fraction of a second. This implosion creates a rebound, a massive shockwave, and that is a supernova.
The biggest explosion in the universe. An event so bright it can outshine entire galaxies?
But this isn't just an ending, it's a cosmic testimony. It's transformation. Those shock waves, that intense rush of energy, they do something incredible.
They create new matter.
That's it. It's a process called nucleosynthesis. The explosion is fundamentally constructive.
So it's not just destroying the star, it's building something new from the wreckage.
100%. The shock waves scatter all the elements a star made during its life, but crucially, the extreme conditions of the explosion itself forge elements heavier than iron, things we couldn't get any other way.
And the author points out the big ones for us. Iron, gold, and oxygen. I mean, that's just an incredible thought. How does the universe even collect all that stuff again?
It enriches the cosmos. Those elements go flying out into space, but they mix with the huge cold clouds of gas and dust that are just floating out there between the stars.
So they become part of the interstellar medium.
They do. And when gravity starts pulling those enriched clouds together again, they now have the ingredients, the iron, the oxygen, the gold, to form the next generation of stars and, just as important, planets.
So it's not a quiet death.
Far from it. What was one single star becomes the literal building blocks of future worlds, future suns, and perhaps future life.
An ending that is just a profound new beginning.
And it connects right back to what we started with. The flare is a momentary disruption from a system that continues. The supernova is a total ending whose impact lasts forever. Both are just necessary parts of the same cosmic story.
And this is where we get to the human lesson. Because when you look up at the night sky, it's easy to feel small. But you shouldn't feel insignificant.
Because the science is literally inside you.
Say more about that.
Well, it's an undeniable physical reality. The atoms in your body, the calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, every heavy element was forged in the core of an ancient star.
Blown out by a supernova.
Scattered across the galaxy and eventually gathered up right here. And at the same time, the energy that warms your skin, that powers all life on Earth, comes from our sun's nuclear fire.
We are connected to both. Flares and supernovas.
Energetically and physically. Which means we can apply these metaphors to our own lives. We have our own flares.
A human flare. That's a moment of intense release, right? That pressure building up until it just snaps.
Exactly. Maybe it's a huge argument you've been avoiding for months and it just explodes. Or a sudden realization at work that you have to change course right now for your own long-term survival.
It's disruptive, it's shocking, but the core of you, the system of your life, it continues.
Right, it's a release, not a total collapse. But then, there are the supernovas.
The seasons where something inside us really does collapse and explode. It changes who we are forever.
These are the catastrophic life changes. The collapse of a core relationship. The devastating loss of someone you love. A health crisis that forces you to completely rethink your entire identity.
The moments when your internal fuel just runs out.
The balance you relied on fails. And it's painful, it's messy, it's a total systemic collapse. But just like that dying star, the material of your life, your experiences, your wisdom, it gets scattered outward.
So the big question the author is getting at is, why? Why is catastrophe so often the thing that comes before creation?
I think the defining lesson, the thread that connects everything from the sun's magnetic fields to your own journey, is that new beginnings almost always come from these moments of collapse. From the pressure, from the pain.
That's the core concept. The universe does not waste energy, it transforms it.
The energy that drove your personal flare, it doesn't just vanish, it forces you to realign. The experiences from your personal supernova, they don't disappear. They become the raw material.
The building block.
The building blocks for the next stronger version of you. Creation continues. Destruction is just another form of fuel.
So when you look at the sun now, you're not just seeing daylight.
You're seeing a living furnace of balance and power. And when you think about supernovas, they're not just distant destruction anymore.
They are the seeds of everything that will come next.
The heavens are telling a story written in fire, a story that says nothing is ever truly wasted.
So as we wrap up, we want to leave you with a final thought to mull over.
Since the universe runs on this cycle of dramatic transformation, think about your own life right now. Consider which cosmic event, a sudden, intense, disruptive flare, or a complete, systemic, totalizing supernova best, describes the powerful transformation you are currently experiencing. Something to reflect on the next time you look up at the stars and remember you are made of them.
Welcome to The Deep Dive. We're the show that takes a huge stack of sources, articles, notes, sermons, and basically gives you the shortcut to being well-informed.
And today, our mission is really specific. We're getting into a recent sermon that tackles this wave of modern anxiety. We want to pull out the wisdom from it.
Yeah, because if you feel like headlines are moving way too fast to even process, you are definitely not alone. I mean, lately, all the noise is about literal noise from space.
Right. Solar flares, geomagnetic storms.
Exactly. And you see the headlines, the social media posts, and it's all fear, things we have absolutely zero control over. Mm-hmm. And it just sparks that question in the back of your mind, is this it? Is this the beginning of the end?
And that's precisely the feeling this deep dive is about. Mm-hmm. We're looking at how to shift from that panic mode to a real understanding of what the Bible calls sovereignty.
Okay.
The heavens are speaking, for sure. The question is, how do we interpret what they're saying? And Scripture, as our source today argues, gives us the framework for that.
So what is the source material we're working with?
We're analyzing excerpts from a sermon by Mario Marrero Jr. It's titled, Signs in the Sun, Security in Christ. It gives us this really clear 6-point way of thinking about it.
Okay, let's unpack this. I'm interested to see how this structure can guide us away from all that sensationalism and, towards some actual clarity.
From being overwhelmed to being grounded. That's the goal.
So the source kicks off by just acknowledging the anxiety. It makes the point that fear just spreads so much faster than wisdom, especially with something so cosmic.
And it immediately provides an anchor. It pulls us out of that 247 news cycle and puts us into a scriptural perspective, starting with Luke 21:25.
Which says,
And there will be signs in the sun, in the moon, and in the stars. And on the earth, distress of nations with perplexity.
Perplexity, that word really jumps out.
Critical. It's not just distress, it's perplexity. That feeling of total confusion, like you can't connect the dots, that's the state the media cycle wants to keep us in.
Right.
And so the sermon's whole purpose is to say, let's open the Word of God for truth, to move us past that confusion and into a place of security. The goal is to understand the signs, not be paralyzed by them.
That's a powerful distinction. It means the real battle isn't just external with the sun, but it's mental.
Precisely. And to fight that mental battle, the sermon goes straight to the first point, God's relationship with his creation.
And this is where it really starts to dismantle that idea that everything is just random chaos, right? That a solar flare is just some cosmic accident waiting to happen.
Exactly. It uses Genesis 1:16 as the foundation.
Then God made two great lights.
Yep. The greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night. It sounds so simple, but the sermon draws out these huge implications. The sun isn't a god to be feared, and it's not an accident. It is created, it's assigned a job, and it's governed by God.
Okay, but I can hear the skeptic, pushing back. We see these flares, and they seem totally unpredictable. If the sun is governed, why is it so volatile?
That is the essential question.
Yeah.
And the source defines sovereignty as ultimate control over all the mechanisms. So God isn't surprised by the volatility. He authored it.
Right.
Every single shockwave, every storm that alarms us down here has already been measured and accounted for in the divine plan. The sun is working within its design specs, you could say. It's not chaos. It's controlled communication.
So for you listening, the takeaway here is that the very thing causing the anxiety, this perceived randomness, is actually under an ultimate form of management.
Mm-hmm. It's a shift from chaos theory to purposeful design.
Which brings us to the second big point, which is, okay, if these events aren't just random acts of destruction, then what are they for?
This is the perspective shift. Jesus said, there will be signs. He did not say, there will be the end immediately.
And that little omission changes everything.
It's huge. If it was the immediate end, we wouldn't need a sign. We'd just get the event. Because he calls them signs, their purpose has to be informational.
And the source gets really specific on the definition of a sign. It breaks it down into three functions: warnings, markers, and wake-up calls.
And the analogy he uses is just perfect.
The road sign. I love this part. A road sign doesn't crash your car.
No, it guides you. It tells you there's a curve ahead and you need to slow down. It's
Right.
there to get your attention and make you adjust your course.
So if you apply that to the heavens, a solar flare isn't meant to wipe us out on the spot. It's meant to grab our attention.
To say, hey, lift your eyes, remember who's in control, and maybe adjust your life accordingly. It completely shifts our focus from dreading a catastrophe to recognizing divine communication.
And that leads right into the next part, which connects the physical reality of our planet with the sort of spiritual defense we need.
Yes, point 3 is all about the protection God built into the system from the start. We worry about radiation from flares, but the sermon points out that science itself confirms our planet's design.
The magnetic shield.
Exactly. A massive magnetic shield and an atmosphere that blocks the deadliest stuff. It's not cosmic luck, it's deliberate design. God put the protection in place before he put people here.
So that's the physical assurance. But while the Earth might be shielded, our minds are not. We're just bombarded with panic.
Which takes us to point 4, the spiritual response. The source brings up 2 Timothy 1.7.
For God has not given us a spirit of fear,
but of power and of love and of a sound mind. If the world is full of distress and perplexity, the church is called to have a sound mind. Fear spreads where knowledge is absent, but faith rises where truth is present.
So the biggest threat isn't the radiation, it's the spirit of fear that's trying to dismantle our peace.
Yes, and to keep that sound mind, we need the ultimate assurance.
Which brings us to point 5. If God created everything and protects us, what's the force that's holding this whole vast, complicated universe together right now?
This might be the most comforting point in the whole sermon. It's the doctrine of the ultimate sustaining power, and it comes from Colossians 1, verses 16 and 17 say, "For by him all things were created, and he is before all things, and in him all things consist."
Consist. That word is doing a lot of work there.
A monumental amount of work. It means they are actively held together in him right now. The sun burns because Christ sustains the fusion. The planets move because Christ maintains their orbits. The universe doesn't fly apart because Jesus is holding it together.
That's wow. It takes creation from a thing that happened once, way back when, and makes it an active moment-by-moment reality.
It does. And the sermon uses this incredibly poignant image to bring it home. The same hands that were pierced on the cross are the hands holding the stars in place. So when you're worried about the cosmos falling apart, remember the nail prints. That's the ultimate answer to that anxiety.
So, given all of that, the sovereignty, the signs, the protection, the sustaining power, what's the practical response? What are we supposed to do?
The response is preparation, not panic. It goes back to Luke chapter 21, verse 28. Now, when these things begin to happen, look up and lift up your heads because your redemption draws near.
So it's a posture of anticipation, not anxiety.
Completely. The sermon says to him, look up, not around at the headlines. Lift your head. Don't bow in fear. And stand firm. Don't get shaken.
And it gives specific actions too, right? It's not just a feeling.
No, it's a call to action. Repent, pray, share the gospel, walk in holiness, and above all, trust in Christ.
It all comes back to that.
The conclusion really ties it all together.
Yeah.
The sun can flare, the earth can shake, but Jesus Christ is the same. He's constant. And that constancy is the final antidote to all this cosmological anxiety.
You know, we started this deep dive talking about the fear of solar storms, feeling overwhelmed. But after walking through this source, the whole conversation has shifted. We've gone from sensationalism to, well, a sound mind.
From helplessness to hope.
Yeah.
So the final thought to leave you with is this. If the heavens really are speaking, reminding us to repent and look up, what's one active step that requires from you today? Beyond just not being afraid? If you truly believe he's holding it all together, what burden are you finally willing to let go of?
A lot to think about there. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.
So if you've been glancing at the headlines, especially over the last few months, you probably noticed something.
Oh, yeah.
Space weather has kind of moved from this, niche science topic to something that's causing mainstream anxiety.
Definitely. We're seeing all these warnings about geomagnetic storms, radiation, these things called coronal mass ejections or CMEs.
Exactly. Words like solar storm and grid collapse, they feel really immediate and, well, frankly, they stirred some genuine concern.
And that anxiety is completely understandable. I mean, we're talking about energy levels that they dwarf anything we can generate here on Earth.
It's mind-boggling.
When an X-class flare erupts, you're looking at the energy of millions of nuclear nuclear bombs. So it's pretty natural for the human mind to immediately jump to, the most catastrophic outcome.
Right. The sheer power of it all forces you to confront your own vulnerability. And that tension, that space between this immense scientific power and our human fear, that is precisely why we're doing this deep dive today.
We're looking at just one really compelling source. It's an article by Mario Marrero Jr. called When the Sun Spoke and Faith Answered.
And our mission here is really to unpack the core question that Marrero is posing to you, the listener. When the heavens declare their power, what are we listening with? Panic or faith?
He argues that we're called to a response that's rooted in biblical understanding, not just, reactionary fear.
Okay, so let's unpack this. The article immediately sets the stage with one of the great poetic passages from the Bible, Psalm 19.1.
The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament shows his handiwork.
Right. And Barrero's whole premise isn't that we should just ignore the science of the solar cycle. It's more about recognizing that science describes the mechanics of a system.
Yeah, the how.
But faith provides the frame for these incredible cosmic events.
And that's a foundational point. He draws a really clear line in the sand between two concepts we often confuse when we look at the universe. We have to jump right into that, defining the sun's role. He makes this key theological distinction between power and sovereignty.
So how do we balance the the undeniable power of the sun, which our telescopes confirm every single day, with a faith perspective?
Well, the author provides that really fundamental distinction. The sun is incredibly powerful, yes.
Of course.
But it is emphatically not sovereign. It is not divine. Marrero suggests we're quick to judge past cultures for worshiping the sun, yet our modern panic gives it a similar kind of authority. We just reframe it as cosmic chaos instead of a deity.
That's a great point. Powerful versus sovereign. Because when we see a massive solar flare, it's so easy to assign it ultimate authority in our minds. Like it's this random chaotic force that could just end everything.
And the author grounds this in the very beginning of the biblical story. He goes right to Genesis 1.16, reminding us that the sun is a created light. It was made to rule the day.
That framing is so important because creation implies design, not just randomness.
Exactly. The sun is magnificent, but it's still a creature, and it's operating within the limits set by its creator.
So solar flares, CMEs, all this dramatic activity, it's not a random existential threat. It's happening within boundaries that were established at creation.
Right. And this fundamentally shifts how you view the universe. You move from seeing this arbitrary, chaotic force that might just wipe us out at any second
to a designed, ordered system.
It's a huge foundational shift for the listener. The authority doesn't lie with the object itself, no matter how much energy it has. It lies with the one who set it all in motion and wrote the rules of physics in the first place.
The sun's power is subordinate.
Exactly, subordinate to the creator's order.
This leads us right to the next big question in the article. If the sun is so powerful, if it's throwing off these, devastating X-class flares, why is life on Earth still, ticking?
And this is where Marrero bridges the science with the idea of divine design, the protection element.
He gets into the science of it, right?
He does. He talks about the dual protective layers of our planet. We've got the magnetosphere and the atmosphere, which basically act as these massive, effective shields against all that harmful radiation.
And what's fascinating is how he interprets that observable fact. The article stresses that this whole interlocking system of protection was not an accident. It was God's design.
He's saying the Earth is fundamentally set up to handle the very power the sun throws at it.
It's built for it.
Right. He even points out that the same geomagnetic storms that create those stunning auroras,
the northern lights, yeah.
That's visible evidence of the shield working. It's deflecting immense energy, functioning exactly as intended. It's proof of foresight, not just, cosmological luck.
Okay, but let's push on that a bit.
Yeah.
For the person reading the news, that protection feels theoretical. I mean, it's a scientific possibility that a major flare could take down critical infrastructure.
Sure.
How does the article address that level of chaos? It's hard to think about sovereignty when the lights go out.
And that difficulty is precisely why he gets into what he calls the panic problem. He addresses how fear travels faster than truth.
Oh, absolutely.
Misinformation, especially about celestial events or potential grid failures, it spreads like wildfire. Voices rush in to predict catastrophe, often to get attention or clicks.
It's the ultimate clickbait. It preys on that natural fear of the unknown.
And instead of asking, will the power grid fail? The deeper question Marrero wants you to ask is, okay, if the power grid fails, does that change the fundamental truth that all creation is being sustained by a single governing force?
That's a much harder question.
And the biblical call, according to the article, is to walk in wisdom. He brings up that verse from 2 Timothy 1:7.
But what about fear?
Yeah, for God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. And that phrase, a sound mind, that is the direct counter to panic. It's a filter for all the information coming at you.
It's the reality check. And the article makes a great point that recent solar activity, despite all the alarming headlines,
All the constant updates.
it didn't result in global destruction. There wasn't widespread harm, no total power grid collapse.
The world remained intact, which just reinforces his core assertion, God is still in control. The Earth's design worked. It makes you ask, if the world isn't collapsing, why are we prioritizing fear every time we see a new headline?
This introspection leads us perfectly into the next part, interpreting these signs. If these big celestial events aren't meant to terrify us, then
Yeah.
what are they for? What's the biblical perspective here?
The author turns to the words of Jesus himself from Luke 21:25. Jesus says, there will be signs in the sun, in the moon, and in the stars.
Signs.
Yes, signs. And Marrero stresses that a sign is not meant to paralyze or terrorize God's people. The whole focus is on the function of a sign.
Okay, so if a sign isn't just a dead end, like a warning of immediate destruction, what is it? What does it direct us toward?
Well, a sign gives direction. It doesn't end the journey. Marrero suggests these events are meant to awaken our hearts, to call us to reflection, to remind us of eternity.
They're pointers.
They are pointers. The secular view sees the sign as proof of looming destruction. The biblical view sees it as a prompt, urging us toward hope and awareness.
That completely shifts the mindset. Instead of looking up at the sky and just waiting for the end.
You're looking up at the sign and it's prompting you toward the author of the entire system.
And that ultimate pointer, the article insists, is that every single sign in creation directs our gaze back to Jesus Christ.
Exactly. They remind us of the one who created them and who is still in control of them, no matter how much energy they're putting out.
And this brings us to, I think, the theological anchor of the whole piece, this idea of the sustained universe. Marrero says the greatest comfort comes from really getting this.
This is the critical synthesis, and it's drawn from Colossians 1:16. The author wants us to really drill down into the meaning of this verse.
Which is,
And he is before all things, and in him all things consist.
in him all things consist. That's such a powerful choice of words. It implies so much more than just creation. It's not that he just started it all.
It's that he holds it together right now, this very second.
Wow.
The original Greek word for consist has this idea of holding together, of coherence. It's the cosmic glue. So Marrero's analysis is that without Christ's moment-by-moment sustaining power, the very atoms of the universe would fly apart.
So the sun doesn't just burn randomly because of physics.
It burns because he allows it. The elements cohere because he actively wills them to.
That gives the concept of cosmic power a whole new dimension. It connects the abstract energy of a solar flare to the personal active power of Christ that you read about in the Gospels.
Right. The energy of an X flare is no bigger than the waves. He's stilled with a word on the Sea of Galilee. He is sustaining the chaotic and the orderly all at once.
So the key takeaway here is undeniable. Nothing in creation, no matter how powerful a geomagnetic storm, a grid failure, whatever, is outside of Christ's authority.
Or his continuous sustaining power. And that is the source of hope that just completely supersedes panic. If Christ is holding the sun together, then we don't need to be afraid of the sun.
That theological certainty, then, should translate into a real behavioral shift for people who believe it. If we genuinely believe he is the coherence of the universe, how should we respond to these signs of the times?
Well, instead of just focusing on earthly defenses, Marrero details 4 distinct responses that are focused on spiritual readiness and external action.
Okay, let's list those out. What are the practical steps that flow from believing Christ sustains everything?
First, strengthening our faith. It's this recognition that if Christ holds the universe together, our individual faith doesn't need to be shaken by these earthly events.
Right.
Second, deepening our prayer life. If Christ is maintaining the order, our prayer life isn't about asking him to, jump into chaos. It's about aligning our will with the order he already maintains.
That's a shift from worry to assurance. What are the other 2?
Third is sharing the gospel boldly. If these signs are pointing toward redemption, then the logical response is to share the reason for that hope with others.
And the last one.
And fourth, living with hope and holiness, which means focusing your energy on spiritual character, not spending all your emotional energy on things that are totally outside your control, like the solar cycle.
So all of those are focused inward on preparation and outward on action, not on building bunkers or hoarding supplies.
It's a complete redirection of energy. And Marrera's final encouragement comes from Jesus' words in Luke 21:28. Now, when these things begin to happen, look up and lift up your heads, because your redemption draws near.
The signs are meant to encourage us, to motivate us.
Exactly. The chaos we observe is meant to point us toward a final promised order.
This has been an incredibly insightful deep dive into Mario Marrero Jr.'s perspective. The central message for you, the listener, seems crystal clear.
The world may question, the sun may flare, headlines might scream.
But the one who sustains all things remains completely unshaken.
And the challenge the article leaves us with is profound. It really asks you to reflect on how often you allow a shocking headline or a scientific prediction to dictate your immediate emotional response.
Instead of letting our core biblical understanding be the foundation.
Right.
So I guess the ultimate invitation here is to be a people known not for fear and panic, but for an unshakable faith confident that the God who created the heavens, the God who sustains the sun, is the very same God who holds our individual lives firmly and safely in his hands.
And that sense of eternal coherence, that is something really worth meditating on the next time you see a headline about space weather.
Thank you for my live. See you next time. Hit the subscribe button and the like button. Share and comment. See you next time. I pray for you guys. Love you guys. God bless you. Jesus love you always.